I'm Natasha. Welcome to Hot Topics. Today we have
Tatiana,
Isabel,
and Sabrina.
And we're going to be talking to you guys about marriage. I mean, marriage. From death do us part. For richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for better or worse. Is that really something?
Have you been marrying people? Because you got that down. Have you been you got that down?
It's my side job. But I mean, is that something that is relevant today? Divorce rates are so high. Do you think that people should still be getting married? Like, do people really go into marriage thinking, I'm going to be in this forever?
Do it when you're in the moment. Go crazy.
When you're in the moment. But that's like the opposite of what a marriage is about. It's like for the long haul. It's not about, today I feel great about you. Let's get married. That's not what it's supposed to be about.
No, in today's society, we're all about instantaneous gratification anyways. So I think that's how we've been viewing marriage. Marriage today isn't how marriage what it used to be.
Yeah, and that's very dangerous because as someone who's closely watching a divorce go through all the different pieces right now, let me tell you, it's messy. It makes you broke. It is not fun. It is emotional, and it's not something. I think that if someone's in a bad marriage, I do think you should get divorced. You should not stay with someone just because you said you're going to for the rest of your life. However, I think you should really try to find that right person because divorce is not fun.
but why does it have to be so hard? I mean, I know we have things like prenups. Do people still have a problem even that they have a prenup with the money thing and, you know?
I
feel
like
it's the money thing that makes divorce so bad.
I really don't even know how I feel about it.
Is that the topic now?
No, that's not the topic, but I mean, it's related to marriage. If you have to give someone a document that says you're not marrying me for my money,
Right.
you don't know if they're marrying you for your money or not. So why are you marrying them?
Don't you want to marry someone that you trust enough not to completely screw you?
If you
get divorced, why are you marrying them if you think maybe they're these horrible gold diggers?
Sometimes it's not their money; it's their family's money.
Fair.
Let's say it's your family that's been working for ages for their inheritance, for their money.
But should you treat that any differently than your own money?
Yes, because it's family's money. It's the mom and dad's money. They get old, and that's their money. But then all of a sudden, this little girl who comes and married their son. And then, they get a divorce, and she gets all of that. That's
very
not really
complicated.
fair. It's very complicated. Prenups are actually more complicated than just well, I don't want you to take my money after the marriage. It's much more complicated than that because they still get a share of what they made during the marriage. That money is still that's not off. You know what I mean?
I would sign a prenup if the family was all psychotic and my husband was like, you don't have to. I'd be like, look, let's just shut him up. I'm not here to take your money. However, if if the guy who's going to be my husband for the rest of my life, I hope, came to me and said, just in case you're a complete psycho who's after my funds, I'd be like, you know what, maybe you don't know me well.
Again, it's presentation. It's the approach. It's how you say it. Yeah, that's how you say it. Yeah.
Okay, but prenup aside, do you think how many of our cohort of people, our age, we're in our 20s, approaching other.
None of us are married, girl. None of us are married. No.
Whoa. I see a little wrinkle here.
This is a precursor to a much bigger
okay. But I'm saying, do you think, out of us four, we'll get married and stay with that person that we first got married to till one of them passes away, us or the guy?
Well, considering I'm not getting married till I'm 50 and I'm probably passing at 70, maybe I have a good chance.
That is a long time to wait.
Actually, I heard this recently where they said that the first person you marry is for love and the second person you marry is for stability.
Oh, that's sad. That makes me so sad. I want someone I love who's also stable.
But you're at a different mindset.
But I think
you're at a different mindset at that age.
My first love was it was all about love. And I would have married him.
Mm-hmm. And we all think that at one point. We're 15.
But then, now, I want to be in love, but there's a lot of other factors that go into a relationship.
So you're in a good place to know because you've grown, you've spent some time with yourself, you've dated and seen what does and does not work. You do know.
I love that we're touching based on all the other
I know. It builds. And here's the big thing I think about marriage right now, and this is my take on it, is that I think to stay for better or for worse till death do us part, that used to apply more than it does because we used to die when we were 52 or crossing the Oregon Trail or whatever. And you wanted that family unit. It was important. It was protection. It was a whole other time. Now I think we live longer. we grow, we change. I don't think it's a sad thing to say I'm in my 40s and now wieners don't match up the way we did.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
here's my dad presented. He was like, well, I don't know if marriage because my parents. This is when my parents were getting divorced, and he was like, well, maybe marriage shouldn't be like a for life thing. Maybe it should be a like contractual thing. Like, do we want to renew our
Contractual
tenure?
sounds
Do we,
kind of-
whoa, marriage is a
No,
contract.
it is a
totally a
contract.
contract.
Yeah, sadly.
And
Yeah.
it's
That's
totally
why
a
they
business
fail.
agreement. It's like started with like, okay, your dad is going to give your to-be husband 8 goats, and then you can, like, for the burden of taking you on and supporting you.
I wonder
Like,
if I can
that
still
is
get those goats.
totally a...
Yeah, contract's just a heavy word. I say just for that time of your life.
But so, is it better to think of marriage like, okay, we're going to do, let's sign up for 10 years, and then in 10 years we'll see, like, let's renew our contract, see what we want to do, or we could renegotiate, like, I get pregnant, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna have babies without you doing a 20-year contract.
Right.
New
Girl, you're
contract.
so black and white. Why don't we just go with the flow, wait till something happens, and then discuss, like, divorce.
But that sounds like then you didn't ever go into it for better or worse.
Why
Why
get
get
married?
married?
For better or worse.
Why get married if you're not going to really try to stick it out?
Things change, society changes.
So why
Hey,
get married? Why don't you just be in a
Just be
relationship?
together.
Yeah, some people actually do that.
Although
Some
in
people
some
actually do
cases,
that.
like let's say, like I personally dated a guy who's Australian. So if we did want to be together long term, we would have had to get married just because I wouldn't be able to live there and he wouldn't be able to live with me if we weren't married. So sometimes it is kind of important, unfortunately.
I think that actually there's not enough studies about, because we see so many studies on like who's married and who's divorced, but they don't do studies on how many couples actually stay together without getting married. They don't.
That's true.
They don't compare the 3 different groups, because today's society, you need to compare those 3 different
That's
groups.
true.
Do you just obviously this isn't a study, but do you think that people who don't get married, do you think they stay together for life? I know
Some people do, because some of them,
I
a
don't
lot of
think
them are
they're
gay.
If
It's
we
true.
would let the gays get married, I think we'd have a lower overall divorce rate.
Yes,
quite frankly.
yes, I agree. Thank you.
I really
Totally,
do.
totally. Because we're not comparing those numbers, and frankly, it's just like society here is so different. I mean, entertainment back then was like rocks and sticks.
Mhm.
Now we have iPads
Right.
with 5-year-olds playing like magic piano. Or
Yeah, I
whatever.
think so. I think I'm totally undecided on whether even I want to get married or not, but I definitely want to be in a long-term stable relationship. But the way that society moves so fast today, it's kind of
Oprah.
like
You know what I mean? Like, is she part of the statistic? No.
But the way that society moves so fast, like, things are changing so fast. People, when you get into your 50s, yeah, hopefully you're a completely different person than you were when you were 25. I mean, goodness, like, hopefully you change and grow. But is that other person going to change and grow in a complementary way?
And you can't guess that.
No,
That's
you
the thing.
can't.
They always say,
You can't.
and I believe this, the number one rule to a successful marriage is to choose the right person, which means having enough time with them, which means asking the hard questions. Do you want to have kids? Do you want to live in a city? Or are you just saying that and you really want to live out the country? What is your take on religion? How do you feel about
Here's
money? Are
a
you
questionnaire before we date.
Pretty much.
just like
because
the
if you
older
don't ask
time-
those hard questions, if you ask A, B, C, D all the way up to Z, and you match up on everything but Y, you have a lot better chance of growing together, not
Right.
having to go through a messy divorce, not having to do all these things, having a partner for life, than you do if you only line up on A, B, C, and F.
But how person A feels about A, B, C, D, E, F today is not going to be the same how they feel about it tomorrow.
True, but if you match up on more subjects, all I'm saying is you have a
Yeah,
better
but-
chance of growing together than if you match up on a lot less.
I think that's true, yeah. And I mean, I
But
think
that's
that,
what couples are doing now, don't you think?
what?
Trying to do that before they get into marriage.
I don't think so.
I think
I
so.
think
don't
a lot
think
of
they are.
people rush into
It depends on
marriage.
it depends on the type of people you meet.
Sure.
The type of people I meet are very like, if you're not this way and that way, I'm not even gonna go past the second date.
Right,
Yes,
which
it
is also
depends.
has a problem.
It is a problem. It's a huge problem.
No, where I'm from is just a small town. People get married at 19 to the
Oh.
person they were in high school with. It's in the Midwest, whatever.
See, that's a very
And
old
then,
school
It's
thing.
very old school.
Yeah, it's very
and
old
then
school.
where I'm from, also there's societal pressure to stay with that person for life because you said you would.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a lot of really unhappy 45-year-olds back in my hometown, to say the least.
It's that hometown mentality.
I think that 19 is you're so young at 19. Like you are the beginning of who you're going to be, but there's so much more that you, even just as I'm heading into my 20s, notice how much I change between like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago when I thought I was so grown and
Yeah.
I'm
That's the
so
thing. You
worth
don't
it.
think that. You think
Yeah.
when you're 22, you're like, no, I'm pretty sure I got it figured out.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
you're 25
yeah.
and you're like, oh, I did not know anything. Like it hits
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
That's why I think when you're older, you know what happens is I feel like people take less time before to be together before they get married.
when they're older.
Yeah, because I always wondered as a young person, I was like, why is it that somebody is with that person for 3 months and now they're engaged and now they're getting married? Like that's not enough
crazy.
time. That is
But if you're older,
you already
You know it. You recognize it.
You recognize it, yeah, because you already know what you want and you already know what you don't want. So at that point,
or is it just the clock is ticking on the baby
Right.
time?
so there are
No,
definitely
no.
some of those. There are
For a
definitely
woman
some of those.
especially, I think that starts to
I
kick
mean, that
in.
does.
But we have options now. It shouldn't even
Sure.
be an
But at
issue
that
anymore.
point, it's so much easier. It's so much more clear when you're older. So why wait if you already know at that point?
Yeah,
So, because
that's
see-
how I feel. I knew about my guy after 1 week, to be honest with you, and
Oh,
my
wow.
mind has only become more and more firm. And I would used to tell you that's crazy, and I don't know if I'll ever get married because it's a crazy notion. Now I'm being optimistic. I mean, I don't know for sure we're going to be together for the rest of our lives, no matter what. But
There's nothing you can never.
I believe it. I
Right.
want to believe it, so I believe
Yeah.
it because I think that's a gorgeous thing to grow old and die with
Yeah.
somebody who knows you better than anyone else. It's beautiful. If it doesn't work out, I'm not going to count it as a failure. You know?
Yeah, no, totally.
I totally want to be optimistic like that. I want to believe that I'm gonna grow old with someone and we're gonna have all these
Your parents
kids
are
and
divorced?
grandkids. My parents are divorced. I just the
My parents are
family, like
My parents
the
are
examples
Your
that I
parents?
have.
You know what? My parents are divorced, but I'm not my parents.